The name's Mabus. The Banjo and Kazooie games wouldn't be nearly as charming if it wasn't for the extreme surplus of delightful characters that went along with it. It's the little personal interactions with these individuals that make your adventure so much more memorable and worthwhile.
This is the only one on this list that doesn't play a bigger part in the story. But that doesn't mean for 1 second that Nabnut isn't worthy of the spot. Nabnut is an awesome character. At least in my mind he is anyway. It certainly helps that he resides in Click-Clock Wood, because you do get to see a little mini storyline with him develop throughout the seasons of the level, and you end up getting quite attached to the little squirrel. When I was younger and mispronounced many things, I used to call him Nutbutt, and I always made sure not to let my little buddy go through the winter without enough acorns, even if it meant falling from the tree several times. I just couldn't let that guy go hungry. Brentilda isn't really the most memorable character-wise, but it's the disturbing details she reveals about her sister Grunty that earns her a spot on this list. I never used to talk to her because I felt it slowed me down on my adventure, and why the hell would I care what Grunty has decorating her bedroom? That's somewhere I don't ever want to be anyway. But when I got to Grunty's Furnace Fund, and I realized I needed that info, I went back to every single Brentilda location and listened to what she had to say. And you know what? It's some of the best literature I've ever read. Some of the secrets Brentilda reveals about her sister is definitely worth your time to hear. Whether it's the funny sports she is good at like loogie flicking or racing on her custom broomstick, the Super Gutlifter Pro, or the disgusting flavors she enjoys like salted slug toothpaste or camel spit milkshake. The countless facts Brentilda spews about her sister are always 110% entertaining, even the ones that I wished I'd never heard, like her party trick of performing a scary striptease. That's something I pictured in my mind that I just simply can't unsee. I'm sure you can tell by the music that this is Jam Jars. So in true Drill Sergeant fashion, let's cut to the chase. This guy is your guide and instructor, teaching you everything from what certain items do to what moves you learn. He even uses military training threats and name-calling like PUNK, and is portrayed to be Drill Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket.
You climb obstacles like old people fuck, you know that, Private Kyle?
And let me tell you, nothing was much more exciting when playing this game than finding a mole silo to learn another move. His brother Bottles had some cool moves in Banjo Kazooie, but Jam Jars takes it to the next level with his advanced moves. It's also hilarious when he mistimes his jump back into his silo and merges his face onto the iron lid. That'll be all. Dismissed! Let's face it, this guy is just simply epic. From the majestic robes he sports to the absolutely awe-inspiring theme music of his golden temple, I'm not sure how you couldn't be impressed by Master Jiggy Wiggy. Sure, he may have a jigsaw piece as a head, but you certainly start to take him seriously once you notice that his magical powers require seemingly no effort from him whatsoever. Such abilities unleashed to their full potential are unbelievably hard to fathom. I don't think it was a coincidence that Grunty chose not to fuck around with Master Jiggy Wiggy, simply because she knew damn well that she'd fucking find out. Say what you want about Grunty's intelligence, but she's still smart enough to know not to mess with the Lord of the Crystal Jiggy. That's probably why she chose to pick on King Jingling as a target instead. You gotta choose your battles. And you certainly don't choose to go to battle with Jiggy Wiggy. That's just a bad idea. King Jingling is on the same kind of majestic level as Jiggy Wiggy. Maybe not quite as mystical, but what he lacks in power, he most definitely makes up for in swagger. A type of Will Smith-like presence, where he is lounging back in his throne, relaxed as can be, looking pretty swish. I mean, his throne isn't even a traditional chair. It's a fucking couch. He doesn't even talk most proper like a normal king would either. By dropping such lines as, yo, and what's up? And does he care? Nope. He's the Jinjo King.
And nobody questions him.
He'll do what he wants. And he does it utterly dripping in swaggery. I mean, just look at his massive frame. I wonder if he's related to the Jinjonator. The main characters Kazooie and Laylee are basically the same individual, and the same could be said about Banjo and Yooka. However, I do feel that Yooka is slightly more intelligent, but Banjo has a bigger heart. I mean, he is a giant teddy bear, it's to be expected. But other than that, they, just like Kazooie and Laylee, are basically a copy and paste of each other. Banjo and Yooka are the rational ones of the pair, where they try to solve problems of the others while simultaneously trying to hide the fact that their partner in crime keeps trying to relentlessly chirp and insult the very people that they are trying to help. Banjo and Yooka are the foundation characters of these games, and it definitely reflects in their interactions with other individuals along the way, as well as their moral values to what's right and wrong. Classic white meat good guys here. Nothing wrong with that. And quite frankly, we could sure use a lot more heroes like that nowadays. This guy is just... yes. Take Jolly Dodger from Nuts and Bolts, and give his sketchiness some steroids and a hefty dose of ego, and you have Trouser. Now let's just take a second. Yooka-Laylee is an E-rated game, right? Now take a look at this guy. A serpent wearing a pair of shorts. Now throw in his name. He's a fucking trouser snake, and he wants to sell you some of his moves. But aside from the dirty jokes the devs like to slip in, he's such a funny character, posing as a much more successful salesman than he actually is by bragging about records and milestones he's achieved, as well as lying and over-exaggerating about his offices and their locations. Even the conversations he has with other clients over the phone is entertaining as hell. Whether it's dodging warranty repairs over exploded washing machines that he's sold, or trying to slither out of dinner with his mother. Now, if that wasn't funny enough, who's to say that he's not faking the phone calls when Yooka and Laylee get near him to make himself sound like a big shot? I mean, he is using a 1980s brick of a cell phone that he probably just found lying around. And if he was having fake conversations to look good, he chose to say those things, not realizing that they weren't good things. And I'm not sure which is funnier. Trouser. What a gem of a character. I like how this character started out as the main voice of reason. At the beginning of Banjo Kazooie, as Grunty was struggling to abduct Tooty outside of her brother's house as he slept like a log, it was Kazooie that wanted to help. Kazooie was the ambitious hero that cared about helping others. However, it didn't take very long for the Breagle to get fed up with solving everybody else's problems, and the amount of fucks that she started to give could have been measured on a non-existent ruler. And she didn't try to hide it either. Pretty much every character in conversation with Kazooie was met with harsh, fiery chirps that Banjo had to extinguish by changing the subject. Now, for the most part, this could have been a negative trait for a protagonist. But in Kazooie's case, most of the time she was right about what she was saying. Sure, it was obnoxious and rude, but damn! She does have a point. And to top it off, all of her comments were usually quite witty and funny, which also makes it hard to complain about. With any great movies, books, games, series, or stories of any sort, the protagonist doesn't mean shit if the antagonist isn't equally as interesting. And when it comes to Banjo Kazooie, the word interesting doesn't even begin to describe the legend that is good old Gruntilda Winky Bunyan. The heel of the series sometimes steals the spotlight in a good way, but not in a way where you want to root for her. Like the way she digs for gold and flicks her boogers in the beginning cutscene of the game. Or with her catchy rhyming as you progress through her lair and she constantly chirps and reminds you that she's always watching. And that is absolutely perfect for the bad guy in any story. to be entertaining, but not too much so that you'd rather them win in the end than the good guy. And a lot of this entertainment comes in the form of ridiculousness. Like her original goal of the game is to steal beauty from Banjo's sister Tootie to become an absolute babe. Interesting plot for an E-rated game. And how is she going to go about doing this? Oh, no big deal, just kidnap Tootie. Abduction felony, that's a 10-year sentence. Take Tootie to her secret lair and have a machine built to absorb the beauty of its intended victim. Torture felony, unconsented experiment felony, both life sentences in prison. And once again, this is rated E for everyone. A game designed for children, no big deal. According to the manual, Grunty's motivations for this is because she's jealous of her cutesy do-gooder sister Gruntilda inheriting all the nicer looks of the family and leaving Gruntilda slightly, well, disadvantaged in that department. Or maybe perhaps it's because she's just overconfident and was upset when Dingpot corrected her on being the prettiest of the land. This is possible. I mean, just look at everything she does. It just screams overconfidence, a trademark trait of a great villain. Like in her fighting styles at the end, the design of her lair, and once again, what she says in her rhyming. Either way you look at it, Gruntilda has plenty of motivations and backstory to be entertaining. But my personal favorite, like I mentioned earlier, has to be all of the embarrassing secrets her sister Gruntilda spills from her guts. Everything from her poor boyfriend's name in witch school, all the way to her favorite pastimes, and all of her funny band names in between, never get old to read. Gruntilda Winky Bunyan, you may not be better than your sister in very many ways, but damn, you certainly take the cake when it comes to entertainment. Well done, Grunty. Well done. What can I say? Honeybee is a grossly underrated character. The fact that she provides you with more lives in return for honeycombs, and the chirps that her and Kazooie have are just way too funny, with such nicknames as Wasp Lady and Hornet Girl. Yeah, no. Honeybee is a decent character, but not good enough for this list. And when it comes to number one, there can only be one. You want to talk about funny chirps and phrases? This guy is home to some of the best. Chances are if something funny is said in any of these games, and it wasn't Kazooie or Grunty, it most likely came out of Mumbo's mouth. Whether it's the simple descriptions of what certain vehicle parts do in nuts and bolts, his empty threats in Banjo Kazooie when he changes you into something that he could use for himself, like luggage or food. Or when he is about to put those smug, underappreciative Hailfire Peaks aliens in their place after resurrecting them from a frozen death. This fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants shaman boasts heavily about his talents, and despite his overconfident and slightly concerning not-give-a-fuck attitude, actually manages to deliver every single time. You know, except for that washing machine incident in Banjo Kazooie. But since it's used in Banjo-Tooie, that argument is invalid. Mumbo was ahead of his time, and Humba Wumba for that matter. And not only that, but he's the only character in these games other than Banjo and Kazooie that you actually get to play as. You know that you're a serious part of the game when you're a playable character. It's almost as if his magic graduated from changing the form of a barren bird to manipulating the very environment around him to his advantage. This shaman is next level, and according to the manual of Banjo Kazooie, was actually a teacher of Grunty before she turned to her black magic ways of being a witch, and betrayed Mumbo, turning his face into that of a skull. And just think, if Mumbo taught Grunty everything she knows, what the hell did he not teach her?
This has been Mabus, and there's no doubt that without these characters, the Banjo Kazooie series would be an empty shell of a game. But the same could also be said about the diverse worlds, items, and movesets you acquire along the way. Ideas for the next video, perhaps. So in the meantime and in between time, stay tuned for more.